The lobby of Bright Future Corporation was already crowded before 9 o'clock. Employees hurried through the glass entrance with coffee cups in one hand and laptops in the other. Receptionists greeted visitors with practiced smiles while security guards checked identification badges. Conversations about meetings, deadlines, and new projects filled the spacious hall. Everything looked polished, organized, and professional. Just then, the glass doors slowly opened again. An elderly woman stepped inside with careful, unsteady movements. Her faded dress was old and patched in several places. A worn scarf covered her gray hair, and her sandals looked as though they had survived many long journeys. Dust clung to the edges of her clothes, and she carried a small cloth bag that seemed almost empty. Despite her appearance, she stood quietly, looking around the lobby as if searching for someone. Several employees noticed her immediately. One man frowned and whispered to his colleague, "How did she even get in here?" Another woman wrinkled her nose and said, "She must have entered by mistake." Within moments, a few people began staring. Someone quietly laughed. Another employee pulled out a phone, pretending to send a message while secretly recording the old woman. A few others exchanged amused looks instead of offering help. The old woman heard the whispers. Her shoulders dropped slightly, but she said nothing. She simply walked toward the reception desk and waited patiently for someone to acknowledge her. The receptionist looked uncomfortable and asked politely, "Ma'am, are you here to visit someone?" Before the old woman could answer, a voice from behind interrupted. "She probably came here asking for money." Several people chuckled. The old woman's eyes filled with sadness. She tightened her grip on the small cloth bag and looked toward the floor, trying not to let the hurt show on her face. At that moment, Emma, a young employee who had just entered the building, noticed the scene. She slowed her steps as she watched everyone staring instead of helping. Without hesitating, she walked directly to the elderly woman, offered her a warm smile, and gently said, "Good morning, ma'am. You look tired. Please don't worry. Let me help you." Emma guided the elderly woman to a chair near the reception desk, away from the curious stares. "Please have a seat, ma'am," she said gently. "You look like you've had a long journey." The old woman smiled faintly and sat down with a quiet sigh. "Thank you, my dear. You've shown me more kindness in a minute than many people have all morning." Emma felt embarrassed by the behavior of her co-workers. She walked to the cafeteria, bought a bottle of water and a warm sandwich with her own money, then returned a few minutes later. "I hope you don't mind," Emma said, handing them over. "You should eat something." The old woman hesitated. "I don't want to trouble you." "It's no trouble at all," Emma replied with a smile. "Please." The woman accepted the food with grateful hands. "May God bless you." As she ate slowly, a few employees continued whispering from a distance. Some shook their heads, believing Emma was wasting her time. Others wondered why she cared so much about a stranger. One security guard approached them politely. "Miss Emma," he said quietly, "management doesn't usually allow people to stay here without an appointment." Emma looked up calmly. "I understand. Could you please give her a few more minutes? She isn't causing any problems." The guard looked at the elderly woman, then at Emma's sincere expression. Finally, he nodded. "All right. Just for a little while." "Thank you," Emma replied. After finishing her meal, the old woman looked at Emma with warm eyes. "You haven't asked me why I'm here." Emma smiled softly. "If you want to tell me, I'll listen. If not, that's perfectly fine." The old woman appreciated the answer. "I came to meet someone important." "Do you have an appointment?" Emma asked. The woman shook her head. "No. He doesn't know I'm coming." Emma looked slightly concerned, but remained respectful. "May I ask who you're here to see?" The old woman paused for a moment before answering. "I'm waiting for my son." Emma nodded politely. "I hope he arrives soon," she said. "Until then, you won't have to wait alone." The old woman looked at Emma with quiet admiration, wondering how someone so young had learned that genuine kindness asks for nothing in return. The lobby remained unusually quiet as the old woman and Emma sat together. The whispers had faded, but curious eyes were still fixed on them. Some employees continued pretending to work while secretly watching from a distance, wondering why the elderly visitor had not been asked to leave. A few minutes later, the sound of several cars stopping outside drew everyone's attention. The company's senior executives quickly straightened their jackets and walked toward the entrance. "The CEO is here," someone murmured. As the glass doors opened, the CEO stepped inside, followed by his assistants. He greeted a few staff members with a brief nod before his eyes scanned the lobby. The moment he noticed the elderly woman, his expression changed completely. Without saying a word, he hurried across the marble floor. Everyone watched in confusion. The old woman slowly stood up before the CEO reached her. "Mother," he said softly, wrapping his arms around her. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" The entire lobby fell silent. The employees who had laughed at her earlier looked at one another in disbelief. The receptionist covered her mouth in shock, while the security guards stood frozen. Those who had secretly recorded the old woman quietly lowered their phones, wishing they could erase the last few minutes. The CEO gently helped his mother back into her chair and asked, "Did anyone make you uncomfortable?" Before she could answer, his eyes fell on Emma standing beside her. His mother smiled warmly and held Emma's hand. "This young lady treated me with respect when everyone else judged me by my appearance," she said. "She offered me food, gave me water, and stayed with me without expecting anything in return." The CEO turned toward Emma with genuine gratitude. "Thank you," he said. "You showed my mother the kindness every human being deserves." Then he faced the employees gathered around the lobby. "My mother insisted on visiting without any special treatment," he explained calmly. "She wanted to see how people in this company treat someone who appears poor and helpless." No one dared to speak. Ashamed, several employees lowered their heads, realizing that a person's character is revealed not during important meetings, but in the quiet moments when no one thinks they are being watched. Silence filled the lobby after the CEO finished speaking. The employees who had laughed at his mother couldn't meet his eyes. A few quietly slipped their phones into their pockets, embarrassed that they had chosen to mock someone instead of helping her. Even the receptionist looked ashamed, realizing she had been too worried about company rules to notice the old woman's feelings. The CEO took a deep breath before addressing everyone. "I built this company on the belief that success begins with respect," he said calmly. "Skills can be taught, but kindness comes from character. If we cannot treat one person with dignity, we have failed no matter how successful our business becomes." His words left a deep impression on everyone in the room. Then he turned to Emma. "I've spoken with your department manager before," he said with a smile. "They often mention your dedication and honesty. Today, you've shown something even more valuable: compassion." Emma looked surprised and shook her head. "I only did what I hoped someone would do for my own mother," she replied quietly. The CEO's mother smiled proudly. "That is exactly why your kindness is so special," she said. "You didn't help because you expected a reward. You helped because your heart told you it was the right thing to do." The CEO announced that Emma would receive a promotion and be recognized during the company's monthly meeting for demonstrating the values the organization wanted every employee to follow. The lobby filled with applause, but Emma felt a little uncomfortable with the attention. She thanked the CEO and simply said, "I hope we can all remember that every person has a story we may never know." Several employees stepped forward to apologize to the elderly woman. She accepted their apologies without anger. "I don't want anyone to feel ashamed forever," she said gently. "I only hope today's lesson changes how you treat the next stranger who walks through these doors." From that day on, Bright Future Corporation introduced kindness and customer care workshops for every employee. People became more welcoming to visitors, regardless of how they were dressed or where they came from. Emma's simple act of compassion proved that true greatness is not measured by wealth, position, or appearance, but by the kindness we choose to show when no one expects it.